Huge news, ladies and gentlemen. I woke up this morning, I grabbed my morning coffee, walked upstairs, sat down at my computer, and sure enough, the Indiana Fever are actually doing something. Lynn Dunn moved aside, is now going to be senior advisor, and Amber Cox is being brought in as COO and GM. Is Christie Side's next? Well, I know who they're going to hire if they get rid of her. Let's dive into it. Hey, you, I'm a brand new channel and I'm trying to hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of October. Help me out with a like and subscribe. You might like what you see. And without further ado, let's get on with the episode. So a lot of you are probably asking, who is Amber Cox? I asked myself a bit of the same question as well. So diving in, a lot of her experience is on the tickets and fan experience side of things. So if you're an Indiana Fever fan, if you get to go to Gamebridge, this is probably good stuff for you. She last worked with the Dallas Wings, and there she was even helping sell out stadiums, even with a team that, you know, was kind of hovering into the playoffs, or in this case, this year was out of the playoffs. So any team that is selling out stadiums, especially a team like Dallas, is probably a good sign for someone's abilities, at least in that arena. But she has a ton of experience. She's been the commissioner of the Big East Conference in college. She's worked with MLS teams. She has been with multiple WNBA franchises, the Wings, the Connecticut Sun, the Mercury. And overall, I think that this bodes really well, again, for fans, but also the fact that she is someone that definitely is going to make moves. And everything I've heard about her is that she is a get-ish done type of person. She's not going to slow roll. She's not going to sit on her hands, which has been the big problem with the Fever, is they've kind of been lethargic in making moves. And it's kind of been more of a, I would say, like, get by, or kind of, you know, that there's the Tamika Catchings years, and those were great. And I think that ownership and everyone kind of realizes now at this point that they are in a new era, the Caitlin Clark era, and so they need to capitalize. So you bring in someone like Amber Cox that has all the business savvy and can be your general manager. Now, the catch with that, though, is that she doesn't actually have a lot of specifically GM experience. She has been an interim GM for the Mercury, and during that time, her claim to fame was drafting Brittany Griner, which, honestly, drafting Brittany Griner is kind of like getting credit for drafting Caitlin Clark. It's the clear top pick. Brittany Griner came out and dunked twice in like her opening game or some craziness or something like that. Like one of the players that's dunked the most in the WNBA. So that type of talent obviously jumps off the page. It's not crazy that you would go and draft Brittany Griner. The Brittany Griner you see now that's like slower, doesn't jump a lot, has this really soft touch, like basically plays like a really tall athletic grandma out on the court. Like that Brittany Griner is not what the Brittany Griner is when she was drafted. The Brittany Griner when she was drafted was money. Could run up the floor, had those good knees, could jump, you know. And so I think that, getting back to the topic, she does have some experience, which is good. And you have Lynn Dunn there, which is why stepping aside and having her be a senior advisor is really great. However, even within that, you think of the role of the GM, which is contracts, that's business side. Amber's probably got that locked. Really, it's going to be personnel. And on personnel, she's been around a ton of organizations. She's been in a lot of college basketball level to the pros in the WNBA. She knows players. She knows about those contracts. She has to know about a lot of this stuff. So I don't actually feel like the exact inexperience of being a GM means that she won't be successful in this role, because she has relationships around the league. The last organization she was with is the Dallas Wings. And if I'm looking over at the Dallas Wings as an organization, there's a clear target that has been talked about a ton throughout this season, and that is Satu Sabali. And Satu is a great spark plug player. She can play both ends of the floor. She can run. She is a talent that's going to be up in free agency for this next year, and was already talked about again as a target for the Fever. But having that relationship already means that it's probably more likely that Satu is a player that you could get with Amber on board. And I also feel like with all the influx of teams that are interested in those relationships that Amber has across the league, it's high. It's just going to be evaluating who do you actually want to bring into the system and Part of that decision, though, that will help of who you actually want to bring in, because you have high interest. You have Caitlin Clark. You have the Caitlin Clark effect. Everyone knows if you come to Indiana Fever, you're going to get the most eyes, most attention, have the most opportunity to grow your brand alongside Caitlin Clark. That if you think you're good, you should be trying to get to Indy ASAP. So with that said, the next kind of question leads to help you make those decisions. You probably want a head coach, and Christie Sides is probably not that coach to give you that guidance. Christie Sides, has done a lot of good things for the Fever in terms of team cohesion and trying to get a young team to gel, that kind of stuff. When I see the Fever team, they're having tons of fun. Them as players, the props they gave to Caitlin with her recent All-Star announcement. Everyone remembers the greatest moment of the Fever this year and the biggest catalyst for success, Zubilation. But she's not a good X's and O's coach. And I don't know if she's a good personnel coach based on how many players like Grace Berger and Talent and sat on the bench, and Celeste Taylor, who got given up for nothing. So if that evaluation isn't working from a coach, then you probably need someone else. And that person, I think, is probably recently fired coach from the Sparks, Curt Miller. And the reason I say this is because Curt is known for developing players, developing talent, which is what you need. You need to develop Caitlin Clark. You need to develop these players and help them grow in these roles and succeed. And every player from the Sparks, after Curt was let go, the main thing they said was, hey, Curt is the reason that I felt comfortable moving here. The reason I was able to develop as a player. Rakia Jackson was talking about how much she developed because of Curt Miller. And there was all this talk about Curt Miller that like, oh, he didn't play Rakia enough, limiting her. But the reality is all these players are like, Curt was the man and making us better players and helping us reach the levels that we were, and being able to take out teams like the Aces when they were tanking. Like they were a team that was going for Paige Beckers, and somehow they were beating like teams that the Fever couldn't even beat, right? So you have a coach that can develop players, that he has experience being top teams, that he's been to championship games, so he has that playoff experience, has that high level experience, and I think they go for him. And the other reason I think they go for him too is because he was at the Connecticut Sun when they had a big run with, I think they went to the championship like 4 times and all this kind of stuff. Curt Miller was the coach from 2016 to 2022, and then he left to go to the Sparks. And then obviously that stint with the Sparks didn't work out for whatever reason, and it's probably garbage. Who knows what's going on there? But you want to know who also was there from 2016 to 2021? You got it. Amber Cox was there. So if Amber Cox was in the organization working with Curt, they had success together. I have to believe that this is probably going to be the move that we're going to find out at some point, that Christie Sides is stepping aside. She's becoming assistant coach maybe, or something of that nature, which I don't think that she would totally be against. I mean, she's had success. She tried to do her best, but Lynn Dunn put her in that position. Christie Sides didn't want to be a head coach. If you bring in someone like Curt, I think that's a huge win. I think it's good from all sides. And if it's a kind of stepping aside situation where she goes to assistant coach, I think she could be a good assistant coach. I think it's a win-win all around for everybody involved. And that's the move I expect to be made next. And that's the domino I hope to be next, because I don't think that the Fever, even if you bring in great personnel and talent, you need someone that can help you navigate the naval battles that are going to happen when you're in big time scenarios like playoffs and that kind of stuff. So the future is bright for the Indiana Fever. Just the fact that they're making this move early and they're signaling like, hey, we are serious. I couldn't be more excited for the Indiana Fever and seeing this move come across my feed this morning. So remember, like and subscribe, and remember, you're going to be amazing today because you are amazing. Catch you next episode.